Good afternoon, viewers. I am lecturer Arvinderjit Mehmi from Production and Industrial Engineering Department, Government Polytechnic College, Amritsar, and my subject is tool engineering. And the topic we are going to cover today is design of jigs and fixtures. First of all, let me tell you what is meant by jigs and fixture. Although this topic I have already covered in my previous lecture, even then, before starting the design portion of jigs and fixture, let me tell you what is meant by jigs and fixtures. As you know, jigs and fixtures are special purpose tools which are used to facilitate production when workpieces are to be produced on mass scale. The mass production of work pieces is based on the concept of interchangeability, according to which every part will be produced within an established tolerances. Jigs and fixture provide a mean of manufacturing interchangeable parts since they establish a relation with predetermined tolerances between the work and the cutting tool. They eliminate the necessity of special setup for each individual part. Once a jig or fixture is properly set up, any number of duplicate parts may be readily produced without additional setup. So, from this definition, it is very clear that jigs and fixture are special purpose tools which only facilitates inner production. These jigs and fixtures are used first of all to reduce the cost of production as their use eliminates the laying out of work and setting up of tools to increase the production, because if we go for individual or manually to produce some product without the help of these jigs and fixtures, naturally we will take more time. So, if we consume more time, mean cost of production is more, but with the help of these jigs and fixtures, time taken to complete the job is less. So, it increases the production. Thirdly, to assure high accuracy of parts. Fourth, to provide interchangeability to enable heavy complex shaped parts to be machined while being held rigidly to a machine. Sixth, reduced quality control expenses, because we don't require to again check again and again the quality parameters of the products, because with the help of jigs and fixture we get partially automated operation. Next is it helps increased versatility of the machine tool. The same machine can be used for number of operation if we use jigs and fixtures. So, increased versatility of the machine tool is there. Less skilled labor. When we use jigs and fixtures, the operation is partially automated, so skilled labor is not required. Semi skilled labor or less skilled labor can serve the purpose. Then saving labors. And last, their use partially automates the machine tool. Now, what is exactly jig and what is exactly a fixture? A jig may be defined as a device which holds and position the work, locates or guide the cutting tools relative to the workpiece, and usually is not fixed to the machine table. It is usually lighter in construction. So, the point here to note is jig is a device which hold and position the work, as well as this jig guides the tool in relation to the workpiece, and these jigs are lighter in construction as compared to the fixtures. Then a fixture is a work holding device which only holds and position the work, what does not in itself guide, locate or position the cutting tool. So, from this you can understand the difference between jig and fixture. Fixture is only a work holding device and it does not guide the cutting tool. The setting of the tool is done by the machine adjustment and setting blocks or by using slip gauges. A fixture is generally bolted or clamped to the machine table. It is usually heavy in construction. Jigs are used on drilling, reaming, tapping, counterboring operations, while fixtures are used in connection with turning, milling, grinding, shaping, planing and boring operations. So, for light operations you can say jigs are used, and for heavy operations fixtures are used. To fulfill the basic function, both jigs and fixture should possess the following components or elements. First of all, it must have a sufficiently rigid body. Body may be in the form of plate, box or frame structure into which the workpieces are loaded. So, body of the jig or fixture should be sufficiently rigid or strong. Secondly, it must have locating elements, so that a job can be located or its movement can be constrained or restrained in particular directions. Then clamping elements. Clamping elements are used when locating elements are uh, unable to locate the job or workpiece. In that condition, clamping elements are used. Fourth is tool guiding elements for jig or tool setting elements for fixture. And last is elements for positioning or fastening the jigs or fixtures on the machine on which it is used. Suppose 4 holes are to be drilled in a rectangular plate, then what operation is required to get the 4 holes drilled in plate are as follows. First of all, spread the solution of chalk on one side of the surface plate, on the surface of the plate, then let it dry. Mark the center of the holes by the pointer, hold the plate of the machine and then drill the hole. A great care is required when the drilling operation is being done. The holes must be exactly in correct position where the centers are marked, and centers must be marked in the correct position. Now, you can see on the monitor a plate is shown in which 4 holes are to be drilled. Then we see that it requires a great care and more time, which cannot be given in manufacturing companies where time is money and labor is poor. If 2000 plates are to be drilled, a lot of time will be required and also a number of workers will be required to perform all these operations before drilling. What drilling may be done quite easily with less care and labor within a less time by means of a jig and fixture. Now, you can see on the monitor this is the workpiece in which these 4 holes are to be drilled, and this is the jig. It is a simple plate whose size is same as the size of the workpiece. Then 4 holes are drilled in this jig and bushes are fitted. The inside diameter of the bush, this diameter is slightly larger than the hole we require in the workpiece. This is to this internal diameter of the bush is kept more than these hole because drills are to be inserted in these bushes. 4 holes are drilled very accurately in plate of job size. Bushes are inserted in the hole and spot welded. The inner diameter of the bush is slightly larger than the hole to be drilled to take the drill inside it. This device is called a drilling jig. It is kept over a number of plates and clamped with them by means of another device which is called a drilling fixture. The holes are located on the jig accurately, which guide the drill. Thus, we do not require to mark the centers of the hole on each plate and to drill them one by one. Simply put the drilling jig on a number of plates, clamp them and insert the drill through the bushes of the jig. Holes can be drilled in 2000 plates quite easily and within less time. Hence, jigs and fixture facilitate the operation and increase the production. Jigs and fixtures are usually designed in a tooling department by the tool designer. The jigs and fixture are named according to the operation they are going to perform, like drilling jig, drilling fixture, welding jig, welding fixture, forging jig, forging fixture, facing jig, facing fixture, etc. Now, if we classify the jigs and fixture, broadly speaking, the jigs and fixtures are classified in 2 general categories. Number 1, manufacturing tooling, and secondly, assembly tooling. Manufacturing tooling consists of those devices which are used in producing individual parts. When the ends of the connecting rod are to be faced by the straddle milling, this type of fixture is used for holding the connecting rod in the milling machine. Then assembly tooling consists of those devices which are used to hold the work and guide the tool as the parts are being assembled. The center of the wing of the airplane is assembled in a special jig in which parts are held in place when drilled together and riveted. The assembly jig is so built that the component parts could fit together only when correctly located, and so that no measurement is ever made and no blueprint ever referred to by workers assembling the wing. These type of jigs and fixtures are designed by a small group of highly skilled workers and may be used by cheaper and less skilled labor. Now, factors of designing the jigs and fixture. What factors are to be kept in mind while designing jigs and fixture? First of all is clamping. The clamping system of jig and fixture with component should be easy and simple. It depends upon the shape of jigs and fixture. The clamps should be placed immediately above the supporting points to avoid distortion and should be operated from the front of the machine to avoid obstruction. So, the clamping system of jig and fixture should be simple and easy to understand, and it can be operated from the front of the machine. Second is clearance. The jig or fixture must have sufficient clearance for operating the tools and removing the chips. Blind spots and corners for chip accumulation should be avoided. Generally, the chips are carried out by the coolant to clear the work and the jig or the fixture. So, sufficient clearance should be there between the jig or fixture and the workpiece, so that the chips which are produced during the machining operation can be removed easily from the nick and corners of the jig. Otherwise, these chips get accumulated. Then third is design. Jigs and fixture are so designed that they may be able to withstand uses without losing accuracy. Swinging parts should be properly balanced. Most economical design of the jigs and fixture will be liable to take every machining operation. Here, the previous experience of designing the jigs and fixture is of considerable importance. A great attention should be given to store and lift the jigs and fixture. So, design of the jigs and fixture should be such that it can withstand ill uses of the jigs or fixtures. Then comes handling. If the jig or fixture is of small size, attention must be given to its weight. Means, if the size of the jig or fixture is small, then it must have adequate weight, so that it can be easily handled. Heavy jigs and fixtures should have eye bolts or lifting lugs for lifting the lifting purposes. So, for lifting of the heavy jigs and fixture, appropriate system should be there, so that these heavy jigs and fixture can be transported from one place to another, and with the help of these eye bolts or lifting lugs. Then loading and unloading. Again, sufficient clearance will facilitate the jigs to handle easily. Short bearing surface should be arranged when locating on a diameter. A great care should be taken in loading and unloading the jigs and fixture. So, sufficient clearance should be there so that a job, a workpiece can be loaded or it can be unloaded easily within the job or within the jig or fixture or out of the jig and fixture. Then sixth point is fool proofing. The design of jig and fixture should be so arranged that the job cannot be placed incorrectly in it. The incorporation of fool proofing pegs will assist here. Here the design of jigs and fixtures should be such that a job cannot be loaded or unloaded in incorrect way. Design should be such, and to provide fool proofing system, some fool proofing pegs can be used here. Gauge and setting blocks. There should be some provision on each jig or fixture for setting blocks and gauges when they can be usefully employed. Then locating pads. Wide bearing surface should be avoided to keep the jig and fixture free from swath and dirt. Only a few points by which the equipment is located will permit easy cleaning. What does it mean? It means that there must be some sufficient clearance between the surface of the jig and surface of the workpiece. There must be some clearance or must be there some room so that cleaning of the workpiece or jig can be done easily. The accumulation of chips and chips should be removed from there if sufficient room is there. So, that is why 3 pin points are sufficient to locate the rough casting and forged faces. Long jigs and fixtures are supported by minimum points. Then datum. Only a datum should be used to reduce the effect of accumulative errors, and it should be used throughout the whole process of manufacture. The best chosen datum will provide sufficient material for each operation in the production cycle. If more datum are to be chosen, care should be taken to reduce the error. So, while working with jigs and fixtures, only one datum should be used. Otherwise, there are chances to accumulate the errors. Then comes machines. In designing long jigs and fixtures, the machine by which they are to be operated should be studied and noted their possibilities and limitation. The size of the equipment should be such that it can be accommodated easily on the machine. It means before designing the jigs and fixture, we are to study the capabilities and limitations of a machine on which these jigs and fixture are to be used. Then comes material. Material required for the jigs and fixture should be suitable and cheap. In essential parts, the special alloy may be used. Welded structure should be avoided where vibration is created during the operation. Good heavy cast iron base should be provided. In such a case, heat treated parts should be clearly noted. Then comes safety. Every care should be taken in designing the jigs and fixtures to avoid the dangerous points. Sharp corners should be rounded. Holding point should be best located. So, in designing the jigs and fixture, safety of the worker should be at the top. So, that is why we are to avoid dangerous points. These dangerous points are sharp corners, sharp edges. So, these sharp corners and sharp edges must be avoided. These must be rounded off. Next is economic conditions. Attention must be given to the economic condition when designing the jigs and fixture. Cheap and simple design is profitable. Some jigs and fixtures are so designed by which a number of jobs are operated at a time. Single or multiple tools used, manual, semi-automatic or fully automatic operations done, etc. are considerable factor in the economical conditions. So, in brief, following principles are considerable in the designing of jigs and fixture. First of all, accurate location of production. Second, clamping the production. Then selection of bushes of correct style and size. Easy and quick removal of production. Economic condition. Then comes locating and clamping. The question of properly locating, supporting and clamping the work is important, since the overall accuracy is dependent primarily on the accuracy with which workpiece is consistently located within the jig or fixture. There must be no movement of work during machining. Locating refers to the establishment of proper relationship between the workpiece and the jig or fixture. The functions of clamping is to exert a force to press the workpiece against the locating surface and hold it there against the action of the cutting force. So, attention must be given to the location of the job, because accuracy and precision of the job is primarily dependent on the accuracy with which job is held within the jig or fixture. So, what does it mean? Movements of the jobs in the jigs or fixture must be constrained. Then comes principle of location. So, in order to study the complete location of workpiece in jig or fixture, let us assume the workpiece in space. Now, you can see on your monitor we have a rectangular plate. Assume that it is in the space, no support is there. Now, we have three axes. One is x axis, second is y axis and third is perpendicular axis, which is z axis. All these three axes are perpendicular to one another. Now, here the possibilities in which this job can move or rotate. First possibility is this job can move in this way or in this way.